So many of you out there have struggled or are struggling with this comparison of the sex that maybe you or your spouse had during an affair versus what the intimacy and sex have looked like within your marriage. One of the most difficult and painful parts of working through the fallout after an affair is this idea that somehow we come up with that the sex within an affair is so much better than maybe what we've had or experienced in our marriages. I think this is for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes it can do with maybe the affair partner's age. This can be both younger or older, right? That sometimes if the affair partner's younger, that it creates this illusion that the youth and the energy and the vibrancy makes it better. Or if the affair partner is older, that maybe this idea that there was more experience or wisdom there, again, doesn't really make it true, but it creates this image that it should have somehow been better. And sometimes this has to do maybe not with the sex at all, but again, this illusion or perceived image that we have of an affair partner because of something maybe they shared in common with our mate. Maybe they work together. And so again, it's they share this thing that I don't have with my mate. Or the affair happened in the midst of a hobby or something like that. And so again, it's this idea that they shared something that we don't have. So again, it may not have anything to do with the actual physical acts that occurred at all within an affair. But as we always say, our minds can be our very worst enemy. And it does lead to this idea and illusion of somehow the sex had to have been better. We know nothing will cut your legs off, so to speak, and cause this kind of riptide, an overwhelming sense of insecurity or inadequacy than the idea of being betrayed. But just knowing that the pain of betrayal is already going to render us in a place of where it's really hard to view the situation from what really happened. We're already, in pain. I know I'm going to say this out loud. Is sex better in an affair? No. Most often not. It's not true. But again, one of the most heartbreaking aspects of working with so many betrayed spouses is just this fallout and this pain of working through this comparison. And so often what we find is whatever your mate did with their body with another person, it really does have nothing to do with you. But I know, again, when we say that to you, we can't make you unfeel what you feel when we have that statement. We can't make you feel anything different right now. And so I'm going to speak from a perspective that I think it's really important. What we want to really talk about is the idea of desire, not necessarily sex. Because we think about sex, a lot of times we just define that as intercourse. But sex is so much more. And when we think about desire, think about what we see in the movies. I mean, so many times we have this edited, scene where there's a beautiful woman and she's pursued by someone, and then they have this spontaneous rolling into bed, and it's amazing. And then oftentimes, for whatever reason, I don't know why, probably because we don't see married sex in any movies, you'll always see, most often the woman, for whatever reason, roll over the next morning and there'll be a rose and a note on the pillow. I'd like for us to go back and think about, what did we experience at the start of our marriages or even our dating relationships? I mean, did you ever notice that we had this intensity and this desire to be close to a person? We just wanted to maybe kiss them all the time, be near them. It was really, really spontaneous. We did not have to work at it. It just happened. Now, biologically and chemically, oxytocin was really what was happening. It was just this, survival desire, right? As humans, we're trying to evolve and not go extinct. But notice again, we didn't have to work at it. It just was. And for a lot of us, maybe we had a whole lot of sex in the beginning of our relationship or our marriage. And then that does slow down over time, most particularly when we start to have kids. And what contributes to that high desire in the beginning of any relationship is really being stimulated with also a lot of attention, a lot of intentionality, a lot of emotional connection. We were really attuned. We wanted to know. We were on high alert. And remember, when we did start dating, oftentimes when we were with our mate, the goal really wasn't sex. We certainly didn't have a pressure to have sex. It was just, again, that spontaneous, that maybe just being near them was enough. Kissing, making out. This was just adding fuel for the desire. And I grew up in West Texas in the 1980s. And so back in those days, if you're my age, all the cars and all the pickups, they all had bench seats. We didn't have these nice bucket seats with cup holders in the middle. And you always knew when people were dating because of where they sat in the vehicle, because they were always right up next to the middle seat next to the driver on that bench seat. They were always close, like they had to be near them. And that was that desire, right? I need to be close to this person. And sadly, this is exactly what happens in affairs. It's spontaneous. A lot of times I always say acting out in affairs is a lot like teenagers sneaking out in the middle of the night. And that excitement, that spontaneity, the unexpected, it fuels and skyrockets desire. And how many of you, sadly, right, you see hundreds and hundreds of phone calls and texts, again, adding fuel to this desire. I know it's really painful to think about, but stay with me. What we really have to get around is that sex is supposed to be different in a long-term committed relationship, because safer is always better. And we need, even now, if we have recommitted to our relationships, those same kind of activities to kind of create desire. But accept kind of the reality and grief. It's not going to happen naturally, but nor is it supposed to. Most of us, we all have full-time jobs. We may have kids or grandkids, aging parents. If you're like me, we have toilets to clean. We have bills to pay. The dog needs to be fed. And while you're trying to heal or repair your marriage in the aftermath of the affair, we have to always look at safety. And we have to know this takes a lot of time to restore. As women, we need to feel very safe emotionally most often before we're ever able even to allow some touch that will feel desire. And this isn't true just for women. It can be for both betrayed and unfaithful. But what we want to get around is this idea that, is sex better? No, not necessarily. It's just very different. And the culprit is desire. Desire can be restored, but it takes time. So if you're trying to repair or heal your marriage in the aftermath of an affair, it's going to be important that we really continue to commit to safety, and that you allow yourself to embrace the idea that it may look different, and that's okay. Again, sex doesn't necessarily mean it was better, but we can come back to ourselves and allow ourselves to see that we do get to start anew. We say, we have to let go of the old and what was and start again. For each of us, sex can be clumsy. It can be awkward. It can be full of those stops, starts, and interruptions. You're gonna feel some anxiety, and that's normal. Safety is imperative, but some anxiety of going places you've never, talked about before, it's gonna require vulnerability. Expect that. It's gonna be really hard. Just maybe stay open. But what we wanna do is remember that, none of us will ever meet all the needs and expectations of our spouse in this area, and nor are they supposed to meet ours. That ordinary can be meaningful. So we want you to stay at this and take any small step towards rebuilding. It's going to be worth it.